Hello and welcome back to TWTV for another video verdict as you join me, Jim Cooper, in deepest, darkest Dorset, outside the smallest ground in the Premier League, the Vitality Stadium, to look back at a Town game in the Premier League. And we've got a glorious game to talk about because Ipswich Town have beaten AFC Bournemouth 2-1 away in an absolute cracking game and performance. And I'm joined by the man behind TWTD and one of his writers, Kallum Brisset and Phil Ham. Welcome, guys. Some joy,
I know. After, so many, was it 10 games without 10 Premier League games without a win? Glorious victory over Bournemouth. One, again, you look at our wins over the course of the season and they've come at Tottenham, at Wolves, at home to Chelsea and now at Bournemouth. And really, with the exception of the Wolves game, probably games that we wouldn't have expected to win. And I think kind of coming up down south today, as we were, most Town fans probably weren't thinking, particularly after the way that the last few games have gone and the way that the kind of general mood has been, that we weren't going to get anything out of it. But it was the sort of resilient performance that we've known from Kieran McKenna's teams over the last couple of years, really. And I think we deserved it. Key moments, of course, were, actually, you look at the start, the first 25 minutes, Bournemouth dominated it, but really didn't do an awful lot, did they? I don't think Alex Palmer had a save to make during that period. And we sort of played our way in, didn't we? The more that Julio Enciso was got on the ball, the more threatening we looked. And then, I can't remember what minute it was now, but he got the ball, didn't he? Brought the ball across the field, very much in the manner of his goal for Paraguay last week. But rather than belting it into top corner, he laid it off to Nathan Broadhead, who sent Hussein for a burger, and sort of clinically finished it. Kieran McKenna in his post-match press conference was talking about what a clinical finisher Nathan Broadhead is, and we've all seen that throughout his time with Town, but he's had probably a handful of chances this season, hasn't he? And he's not taken them. And some of those, which, in fairly crucial circumstances, I think there was one, I can't remember which game it was, where it had given us a 2-0 lead. But today, he poked it under Kepa's legs, didn't he, to make
through the legs. It was a beautiful moment.
Lovely finish to make it 1-0. And then we finished the half fairly strongly, didn't we? And then I think we weathered a bit of a storm just after the break with Alex Palmer making a great save. But really, our first chance in the second half was the move of the match. And Kieran, in his press conference, was saying how it's not often that teams build a move from the goalkeeper to score in the manner that we did against Bournemouth down here. A sort of 1-2, wasn't it, in the end, between Liam Delap and Connor Townsend, who cut it back to Liam Delap, who absolutely belted it. You hear stories of Ted Phillips, don't you?
Yeah.
Back in the day, hitting the ball so hard, and I don't think he could have hit it much harder than Liam Delap did. The net lifted, didn't it?
And the word that Sky were using was clinical. And it was just a clinical moment. And he just hammered it, didn't he? It was beautiful.
And you could see he kind of wound himself up to. You could see it, the goal about to happen in motion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can with a goal, can't you? And he could see the ball coming to him, and he just wound himself up and absolutely hammered it into the corner. Kepa, I don't think he moved, did he? And 2-0, and then of course the next. Within a minute, wasn't it? They were awarded a penalty for a trip by Axel Transabi on Semenyo, wasn't it? But as soon as you saw the video, you thought, well, that's probably not going to stand. Well, depending on how much faith you have in VAR, it probably wasn't. Yeah, it probably wasn't going to be a penalty because the clinical kind of clip of the heels was outside the area, and so it proved VAR didn't uphold the decision, and the free kick came to nothing. They pulled a goal back, didn't they? Sort of one of those shot, save, rebound. But we held out, didn't we? Defended fairly solidly, and I don't really recall too many major dangers towards the end.
Yeah, I think that was the big difference for me, wasn't it? You know, some of these games we've had this season where you felt like they're going to score against us. I felt fairly solid. I felt fairly we were defending well.
It was a bit like Tottenham game, I thought, actually.
That's a good point.
The last 20 minutes against Tottenham, you thought they were going to really come at us, and they didn't, did they? Because
Yeah.
I think they ran out of steam. And I think Bournemouth, probably for a slightly different. I think Tottenham had a midweek game in Europe, hadn't they, a few days beforehand? But Bournemouth, I think, perhaps are running out of steam a bit as a team over the course of the season,
I
partly
think,
because of losing players through injury.
Yeah, I think it was key before the game that we had the two teams had the same recent form over the last 6 games, which I think was 4 losses and 2 draws.
Yeah.
And I think, they weren't in the same place as maybe when we played them at Portman Road. When they came strong in the second half there, it was a team that had a lot of confidence in them. They weren't quite the same team. No. But at the same time, I've got to say, I think they at times are a very strong team. The way they pressed in packs in the first half was superb. A couple of things that Howson did, I don't think Eddie's best game was excellent. In fact, Kallum, let's move on to you, because I really want to talk about performances and players, because for me, this was about a group of players standing out. You've got a lot to go through, but can you start off by taking us through the lineup and talk about the system, and then we'll pick out some performers, and then we'll go back to Phil to get his sort of man of the match and performance as well.
System, well, changes. There were 6. I think we've become used to seeing lots of changes in the side.
Some forced, of course.
Yeah. Some forced, yeah. What were they? What were the notable ones? Axel Tuanzebe, obviously back from his injury. Connor Townsend came in for Leif Davis, who was missing. Amari Hutchinson was missing as well.
Did we find out what that was, Guy, in the press conferences afterwards?
Amari's a hamstring. Not sure how long he'll be out for. Leif Davis is a sort of mystery leg injury. Kieran says that's still being assessed. So, we don't know when they'll be back.
Okay. But, those 2 missed out. Sam Morsey came back in for Calvin in midfield. What were the other changes? Brody obviously came in.
Cameron
Burgess came in.
Ben
Johnson on the right-hand side. But in terms of the system,
Nathan
it was one of those 11s where you weren't sure whether it was going to line up as a 3/5 or as a back 4. And it was interesting in the warm-up. We were watching the players kind of warm up in their lines, as it were, and they were warming up as a back 3,
right? Okay,
and as a back 5.
Do you think that played out in the game? Because I did see
John.
Yeah, it was. I thought
as soon as the game started,
it was
the game was quite clearly a back 4.
Yeah,
which was surprising because of what we'd seen in the warm up. Not surprising in terms of we've been pretty much a back 4 lately, and Johnson was kind of as that kind of right kind of winger, as it were, with Axel Tuanzebe as the right back. And I spoke to Ben Johnson after the game as well. He mentioned about Axel being back, giving them more solidity, and how much he enjoys playing with Axel behind him, which I think really significantly helped.
It was a good pairing.
It was. It was Enciso on the left and Broadhead in the middle again. Yeah. So the kind of Enciso on the left that we saw before the international break kind of continued. And it worked, because we spoke about the first goal. Enciso was created. But he
was coming inside. He was a bit more would you say he was a bit more flexible? I thought Enciso was coming inside. He was running through the middle at times as well as going wide.
We know in our team that the left-hand-sided player is much more central than the right-hand-sided player.
Kieran actually was talking about it, and Nathan Broadhead's role, which he sort of was out on that side with Ben Johnson. So I think the kind of we've talked about the team being asymmetric, haven't we, before? And so I think that Broadhead was sort of centre right, as it were,
and that's exactly where he was for the goal. Yeah. He was in exactly that position. So it was in Broadhead probably had his best game of the season, probably.
Played really well.
But he wasn't the only standout. While we're talking about the attacking players, I thought Enciso had his best game since he's been here. Like we said, his driving run for the first goal created it. But even before that was the first significant chance we had in the game. But whenever we looked like coming forward, it looked like it was going to be through Enciso. But I think the real standouts are probably at the back. I thought Axel Tuanzebe came back in, and how many times do we say it when he's had these injury layoffs? He comes back in like he's never left, like he's not been missing.
I think he really came straight back in today from the get-go. First touch was excellent, and there was a lot of classy touches from him. Do you know what I mean? Like the way he controlled the balls in tight situations. Very good performance.
Dara Roche, probably my pick of the bunch. I think I thought it was excellent.
He should have scored that from the corner, but we'll give him that.
Would have made it more comfortable at 3-1 certainly. But defensively he got his head on everything. Bournemouth put quite a lot of crosses into the box. There were a lot of blocks. Semenyo is very trigger happy with his shooting. There were a lot of blocks to stop those from being goalwards. And Connor Townsend at left back makes us he makes us much more solid defensively. While we're talking about the defensive performance and the shape, Leif Davis, for all his attributes that he has going forward, we just look more structured defensively when Connor Towns is in the team, and he hasn't had a bad game for us since.
I was actually in the home end opposite the superb away end today.
Yes.
We'll come back to that.
We'll mention that.
Sitting on my hand at the exciting moments, trying not to scream when we scored. But I had Townsend right in front of me in the left fullback role.
Likewise, we did.
And sensational moments. You know, he was shielding the ball out. He was getting balls out of situations, passing up the ring. It was a standout performance from him.
And even going forward, we spoke about Delap's goal. It was the 1-2 with Delap. It was the Townsend cutback that led to the goal. It was his assist.
And I want to pick out something else. We've talked a lot on this show about the three behind Delap and the three and Delap not really working that well. Giving the ball out.
Didn't
the
work
first
well.
10 minutes, Enciso made 2 errors. Delap was a bit loose a couple of times. And I was just sitting there going, oh, God, here we go again. And then it just clicked, didn't it? And there was fluidity between them. Do you know what I mean? And they were dangerous. And Bournemouth didn't know quite who were picking up. Do you think there was more movement, Phil, between the three behind?
I don't know. I think...
What was the difference?
Enciso started running at people.
Yeah.
I think that was because he won a free kick shortly before the goal, didn't he? I seem to remember. And yes, I think they kind of really knew quite how to deal with him. As you say, perhaps he came a bit more narrow. And Broadhead was getting on the ball as well. And Delap, Delap fairly early on, you didn't see an awful lot of him, did you?
That's right.
There was a lot more running from Delap.
Yes,
there was a lot more making the movement
into channels.
He was going into channels, and also Broadhead was pushed up a bit more, wasn't he? You know, for the goal, he was right up. He was almost higher than Delap for the goal,
which I think helps Delap in terms of that running. That he's not the only outlet. You know, there are other players.
I think it's a very frustrating position to play in, isn't it? I think, and sort of the first spell in the second half, actually. He was trying to battle for the ball, wasn't it? Wasn't really getting a lot.
And it's not easy when you're in a team that don't have a lot of the ball and are generally struggling because...
And he usually gets in a situation where he then shoves someone over. He gets frustrated. But he didn't today, which is good because he's not suspended for Saturday.
Yeah.
We've still got 2 more to negotiate.
I'm just conscious of time because, frankly, I could talk all night. But it's dark, it's very late, it's Dorset. But let's just close out on the player performances. Who was your man of the match, Kallum?
Dara Roche.
Dara Roche for you, yourself?
But there were quite a few standouts.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to kind of name any particular. But Enciso, I thought that the role he played, I think getting the first goal was such an important thing. He created 1 or 2 other opportunities, didn't he? One for Ben Johnson, I think, not that long afterwards, was it? I'm trying to remember. I just thought that he
grew into the game.
As he grew into the game,
stretched them. They didn't know what to do with him. By stretching them, it gave space for Delap and Broadhead, and we're not getting that.
And it kind of got us a foothold in the game, didn't it? And that's kind of where we built on that to get the victory. So I think him. And your thoughts?
Well, I think one thing for me, a lot of the Bournemouth fans around me were asking about Kajust. They realised I was Ipswich after a while. I couldn't hide it, but they were saying, "Who's Kajust?" Because I think he had moments of quality. I don't think he's man of the match for me, and it's a slight frustration for me. Is I almost split it between Townsend, Burgess, and Broadhead, and it makes me think maybe we should have been playing them a little bit earlier because I thought. Between those three, there were standouts, but I think my man of the match would probably be Broadhead.
I was going to mention Broadhead. I don't know if we mentioned it when we were talking about his goal, but his first in the Premier League, which is obviously as a personal note. Really,
is it his first in the Premier League?
Really good for Broadhead.
Oh, right, that's fantastic.
Last goal was a year ago yesterday.
Right.
In that Southampton.
These are the stats you're here for, Kallum. We like that.
That's what I can provide. It wasn't it was Phil's stat at half time. I've got to be honest.
Steal it from me, doesn't mind. Let's just quickly. So let's close off there. Let's just look at the stats very quickly. 36%. I think it felt higher than that and that's a good sign. XG 1.18 for us, 1.95 for them. 10 shots, 2 on target, 6 off target, but 3 clear-cut chances. And I think we were in there, weren't we? I thought the XG would be slightly higher than that, but and we had 3 corners. So what are stats? I felt like we were in that game. We had a lot of buoyancy to us, a lot of energy, and a lot of solidity as well. And I think clinical is the word Sky are using, and I think it's a great word for where we were today. We took the chances. Yep. So let's move on. Let's jump to the forum actually, because I think I can get from you further thoughts about the game, and then we'll finish by talking about Kieran's press conference. So 3 words. We've gone over across the forum. Homer123's put them up, and we'll start with you, Kallum. North Suffolk Blue, first win 2025. What does this mean? Put you on the spot.
It means a lot. I don't think many of us, you said at the start, I don't think many of us came here expecting that. It's been a long time, even if the gap is still 9 points, and it's unlikely that we're going to stay up still, even with this win. But it's nice to come somewhere. I mean, I haven't been here before. For a start,
my first time as well. Yeah,
come somewhere different without expecting to win, and to be standing here talking about a win. It's just it's about time, because it's been far too long.
Frankly, the video verdicts have been becoming pretty difficult to do. But I think it's important. Like a lot of talk on the forums, Phil, about end it now. Let's end it. Let's get to next season. But I think to get that first win in 2025 just beefs us up. And who knows, if we win on Saturday, where could we go?
Well, if we win Saturday, it's 6 points, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if we then happen to win a game when they've not won another game, then it's 3 points. And you think, well,
and suddenly we're saying we're staying up.
Exactly.
Let's not do this to ourselves. But
it's steps, isn't it? And
these steps. And sorry.
And we've looked when we were talking before about earlier about our May. When you look at our May,
it's a good month.
Yes, it's Everton and Brentford and West Ham and who's the other one? But they're all teams that may not have anything to play for in that month.
To get to that point, we're going to need to pick up more points between now and then, and it's after Wolves, with it being Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle.
Leicester's the game we've got, isn't it?
We're going to have.
Oh, I know.
We're going to have to
Phil get carried away.
But I think if we're kind of within, I don't know, 6 points, say, going into May, then you can look at it and think, well, maybe we've got a shout.
But I think one thing you did say that Kieran had mentioned on the press conferences, Phil, was a run of any sorts or any good form is not going to come unless we get a win. And that's it, the first win of 2025. Let's move on to Weird Fishes, great username on the forum. Where's that been, Phil? Where's that performance been? What's been happening over?
Well,
what have we been doing wrong? Is it Bournemouth's performance today, or what do we do right today?
We took chances, I think that's one thing.
Absolutely.
We went 2-0 up rather than 1-0. Because I think it's easier to, once you get 2-0, it puts you in a better position, obviously.
Yeah.
But yes, we've I mean, you can go back to, the Bournemouth game at home. If we'd have gone 2-0 up in that, then it would have been all over, wouldn't it?
We arguably should have been.
And yes, we had a goal disallowed, didn't we? Burgess is. I think that was it. We got our noses that bit further in front. I think we've kind of shown that sort of solidity in a number of games, but then in a number of other games, we've conceded late on, haven't we?
Yeah.
How much, just out of interest, going back to the team selection, how much do we put on the defensive solidity, on the structure of the back four?
Well, I think
have we seen Townsend, Burgess,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that's my slight frustration is we just looked a lot better defensively with Burgess and Townsend in there.
Is that our most defensive back four? If you see what I mean?
Yes, it's a good point.
I would say,
best defenders, out and out defenders.
But I just think Burgess is purring at the moment. He came in again. He looks like he's reading the game. He's also, we talked a bit about before. You've mentioned a few times, Phil, about have we got enough character in the team? For me, I've always thought Burgess was a little bit of a quiet player, but today he was dictating again, which I saw when he came on against Forest. I think
he's deserved more games than he's got.
Yeah,
and that's for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah,
and it's character again. Daro, I think he is a real leader at the back, and I think that, and also there's a bit more experience again with Townsend as the defender. I think he kind of adds to that. Yeah, it'd be interesting. You got the impression that probably Leif Davis isn't going to play Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see.
Well, you stick with the side. Let's move on. From flashing smile, battling, persisting, terrifying. Let's unpack that. I think
terrifying is that the Bournemouth defenders looking at Liam Delap. Maybe.
Perhaps it was, or the fact of how terrifying it was at the end when we thought we might give it away. But I think battling, and we were persistent. We had shape. We weren't giving anything up, were we, Kallum?
No, we weren't. And like I said, shape as well. That's what it comes down to as well. Defensively, when we needed to be solid, at times this season we haven't been. We've been too open, but tonight we were solid enough, but not solid to the extent where we didn't have an attacking threat.
Yes,
we showed that we had the numbers going forward, and part of that is because, like you say, with Broadhead helping with the runs with Delap. Delap's not just isolated up there. Broadhead was getting involved, in CISO.
Yeah. We didn't see a lot. Morsy's someone who didn't stand out, but maybe because he was doing a lot of dirty work in front of the back, the centre too. It's the other
thing I would say is the subs today. That I think Kieran May, a lot of this season perhaps would have kept Delap on a bit longer.
Yeah.
And today he made his three. That traditional thing of making the subs around the 74th minute or something, wasn't it? And and it did perhaps give us a bit of an injection on the break. I think we perhaps might have used the ball a bit better, but Hurst won the ball a few times, didn't he? Clark won a couple of free kicks, and that probably added a bit there. And I think one of the differences between Bournemouth at the moment and Bournemouth earlier in the season is they can't bring on players in the manner that they could, because they've got people injured.
Who was their big player who was out with injury?
Yeah, Clivert was out today.
So they're a bit.
Sinisterra, Tavernier all out. So
they didn't have that ability.
In terms of recognisable names on the bench in an attacking sense, it was Brooks and no one really else. We had Jack Clark on the bench. We had Connor Chaplin on the bench, who didn't get on the pitch. We had Jaden Philogene on the bench, George Hurst. Our strength in depth in an attacking sense was better on the bench than Bournemouth.
Well, Kallum, let me pick that up, because Vic from the board, again, another 3 words, he said subs did well. And there's a couple of things, Phil, you mentioned there. I've been disappointed about how late the subs have been. They came on with plenty of time, and I thought all 3 were strong. Taylor was high up in a sort of 10 pushing up. That worked very well. That was right in front of me. Hurst was all over the place, a lot of running. They didn't like it. He was in their faces. And Clark, I thought, was excellent. He was a standout sub for me. Let's talk about the subs. What do you think of Clark when he came on, Phil?
Yeah, there was one particular run that he made, wasn't there, where we sort of talked before a few times about Hutchinson's role in the Tottenham win, where we got it out to him, he ran with it, and he either won a free kick or maybe got us a chance or whatever. And it just took the pressure off when Tottenham were trying to build up a bit of a head of steam, and that was the role that Clark was there to do, and once or twice he did that. I did think that there were a few occasions when we tried to be a bit too ambitious with passes as we were coming out, where actually a simpler pass would have just kind of released the pressure a little bit when there was pressure starting to grow.
Yeah, he was quite robust though, wasn't he? I thought he didn't give the ball away too much, but you're right. I remember the times when he was a bit ambitious. Right, a car's about to take off in front of us, but let's keep going. And this one, let's end with this one. And we sort of Phil got quite excited about this earlier on. Glimmer of hope from Tony Bede. Is it a glimmer of hope, or are we just being blue goggle madness? Callum's the one who keeps us down to ground. You can
it is a glimmer of hope,
Glimmer being the right word.
Yeah. More than had we been standing here and we'd lost it 2-1, obviously. You know, the points tally being 9 is better than it being 12.
Yeah. We'll be talking about whether we do better than Sheffield United and Burnley next
year.
Yeah, on the way down, our conversation was all about championship fortunes, but this has given us that glimmer. Yeah,
but that is all it is. It's at this stage, it's just hope. You know, there's no expectation that the gap is going to be closed.
But also come back to that point I made. Whatever happens, let's go out with a bang. Let's finish well above Leicester and Southampton, and let's show what qualities we've got, and let's give the fan base a bit of a cheer from the Premier League experience, because it's been grim overall.
You don't want to go into
the glimmer of hope.
You don't want to go into the summer. I mean, there was without sounding too negative, but there was a real prospect that we couldn't see where another win this season was coming from. Imagine if that was the case. Imagine if we went into the summer still not having won this year. Or
we talked on the train down, didn't we, about if there's a hangover from a poor season in the Premier League. I think our conclusion was actually it's a long summer and there's friendlies and it can go. But it's all good for the fan base. Right, I'm conscious that we've been rambling at you. We're extremely excited.
We've won, it's fine.
We've won. Let's keep going. Let's go for an hour. Let's make it our longest show. So let's finish out by looking. Actually, I want to talk about one thing before we go on to the Survivor League. I want to talk about the away end and the atmosphere and the ground.
Yes, it was very good. It was the noisiest, wasn't it? You kind of didn't hear a lot from the Bournemouth fans, but you did hear the town fans going.
I thought the away end looked really good.
Yeah, I thought the Bournemouth fans were actually okay at the start. I quite like the ground, to be honest. It's tiny, 11,379, but it is tiny. But I quite like the fans. I thought their locals, although they weren't particularly loud, we were involved. But our away end had a superb chorus of Blue and White Army that went on. It was like tribal, wasn't it? And I know McKenna will have appreciated that. But hats off to the away end.
Sounded like a lot more than 1,300.
It really did. It really did.
And the 1,300 who were there, the fortunate, the loyal 1,300 who were there.
Yeah. Well, you were saying is that
did themselves proud.
Yeah, they did themselves proud.
And the team did the players proud.
Yeah,
as well.
and it was great for they could go over to the end. Who was taking the cheers?
Broadhead, I think.
It was Broadhead. You're right.
I had my head down in the keyboard, but I've seen the pictures, so I think it was Broadhead.
That's good. So okay, let's close by looking at the Survival League. That's what it still is. I've given myself hope, Kallum. I can't believe I've done it. But anyway, looking around us. So last night, obviously, Potter's out of form at West Ham failed to do us anything. And we're apparently very poor in the first half because Wolves beat West Ham 1-0. Tonight, Man City have beaten Leicester 2-0, and they're, hopefully keep them below us. Saints
It's quite important, because we were actually level on points with Leicester, weren't we?
We were,
so going 3 points ahead of them is because obviously there is the potential scenario of Manchester City being fined a ridiculous number of points.
On those straws, Kallum, but give in.
We'll see. But if that does happen, we probably wouldn't forgive ourselves if we've let Leicester get ahead of them. And of course, also there's the matter of each position being worth a couple of million quid.
Yeah. Is it £2 million per
I think it's
position?
About a couple of million quid.
That's
which is a lot in the Championship.
Yeah, that'll pay a few
if
weeks.
If we are in Championship.
Pay for Alex Palmer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. And then, yes, as I mentioned, Saints were 1-0 up against Palace, but it was 1-1 in the end, and they're miles behind us anyway.
To worry about that.
Yeah, they're gone. So finally, let's finish off because our position in the league is we are 18th. We've got 20 points now. That sounds a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, marginally.
We've got our rivals are on 29, so they're 9 above us, Wolves. But if we beat them on Saturday, it goes to 6. Fortunately, their goal difference is minus 16, better than us. But overall, we've had 4 wins, which is a lot better than 3. Interesting that three of them have been away from home, and I think that says something. We've had 8 draws, 18 losses. We'll smooth over that. But great to get a win, and great to chat to you guys with a smile on our face.
Yes,
about time.
About time.
Hopefully another one on Saturday, and that would.
And that's it. Let's look forward to bringing Wolves to our place, giving them a good game. Let's close. What do you feel about Saturday, Phil?
Well, I think tonight's result has given it a bit more, hasn't it? I think if we were going into that game, the difference being 12 points and still without a win, I think it would be a little bit flat. Whereas now, there is that glimmer that if we win, then it's 6 points, and then who knows what happens from there.
What's slightly brighter than glimmer? Because that's what it would be if we got it down further by a win. I think one factor is, we need to get some more wins at home. It's been pretty dire for people at Portman Road. I think the better performances has tended to be away. So that's something that we need to get out of Saturday, Kallum.
I think we need to go into. We know it's a huge game, obviously, but I think we need to go into Saturday with kind of not put too much pressure on it. In that, I don't actually think there's a lot of pressure on us in terms of the expectation is that we're probably still going down anyway. So let's see if we can get a result that might swing that.
Go and entertain. Let's have a moment of the kind of goals we saw from Delap, that moment of blasting the net. So right. Well, thanks very much, chaps. That was great to chat to you. It's a lot better when we win, isn't it?
It's marvellous.
But appreciate it. And also really appreciate you tuning into TWTV. Thanks for watching us tonight, and please, as always, like and subscribe. And we'll look forward to you joining us after the Wolves game at Portman Road on Saturday. Thanks again.